Welcome to Collaborative Connections podcast sponsored by KLM Consulting Marketing and Management. This podcast is designed for small business owners and entrepreneurs looking to grow, streamline, and succeed. I'm your host, Kelly Lorenzen, business owner and passionate advocate for small businesses. Running a business can feel overwhelming, but you don't have to do it alone. On this show, we bring together industry experts, fellow entrepreneurs, and thought leaders to share insights, strategies, and real-life success stories. From marketing and business operations to building powerful partnerships, we cover the tools and tactics that help small business owners thrive. So whether you're launching, scaling, or looking for fresh ideas, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's episode and start building something amazing together. Thank you. I have three amazing guests with me here today. I'd love to introduce you to, first, Kimberly Mitchell with Home with Help. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And Samantha Malcolm with Sold by Samantha.
Hi there.
And Laney with Trek Wealth Solutions.
Hey, great to be here.
I'm really excited. So we always start the show with a rapid fire Q&A just to get our blood flowing and maybe a few laughs along the way. So I'll start with you, Kimberly. What's your go-to pump up song before a big meeting or project? Any pump up music you like?
I would probably tend to go with Roar from Katy Perry.
Me too.
I love that.
Of course, we like the same thing. Samantha, what about you?
Oh, geez, this was a hard question. Probably some Whitney Houston.
That's great.
Fight song by Rachel Platten.
Yeah, I like
You
that.
can't
one.
really go wrong with it.
I like that one too. So Kimberly, tell us a little bit about you and your background and your business so the listeners can get an idea of who they're listening to between these rapid fire questions.
How far back are we going? So I'm Kimberly Mitchell. I own a home care agency called Home with Help. I'm born and raised in Arizona. I left when I was 23 for 14 years. Lived in Mexico. I have two girls. Both were born down there, so they're a very long story. And have been back for just shy of 11. So my parents, sister, cousins, everybody's still here.
And you bought Home with Help in
2014. So we just finished our 10th year at the end of 2024.
That's exciting. And you have what kind of services do you offer, and how many people do you have on your team?
It's non-medical services, so we help seniors traditionally in their homes. Some are already in an assisted living community, and non-medical services like bathing, dressing, meal prep, laundry, take them to the doctor, that kind of thing. We now have about 200 caregivers on staff, and we serve the whole valley.
Yeah, really exciting. And Samantha Malcolm, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah. Well, I've been in real estate for almost 25 years now and have been with Keller Williams the entire 25 years. And I have my own office, Sold by Samantha, down in Scottsdale Ranch. There's 6 agents that work out of that office, and we cover all over the valley. And I'm a mom of 5, so in between selling houses, I charter kids all over the valley for sports and stuff like that. And I was a teacher before that for special ed for a couple of years, and then jumped into real estate.
And Samantha was my first business partner in real estate way long ago, way back in the day. Caitlin, what about you?
Hi. Wow. It's like thinking I have a lot of kids with too. Hello, everybody. My name is Laney. I'm a certified financial planner, and I have a financial planning firm. We service clients all over the country, but our home base is here in Scottsdale, and the name is Trek Wealth Solutions, where we provide holistic financial planning that is going to provide personal financial advice around tax mitigation, estate planning, investment advice, and retirement planning. Personally, I'm a mom, and I have 2 boys, and our life is very full and busy. And when we're not juggling work and kids, my husband and I love the Suns basketball games. So
There you go. Yeah. When you're not working and not trekking kids around, there's another rapid fire question. What do you love to do, Kimberly?
We have season tickets for Diamondbacks.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And
for
traveling.
Sporting and traveling is massive. Yeah, that's a huge priority. It's always been a priority since I was, like young adult.
What about you?
The last couple of years, I really got into fitness. So hiking and Zumba is one of my favorite classes. So anything outdoors and just working out and things like that.
And anything at the beach.
And the beach, yes.
We have that in common.
Draw me at the beach.
What about you, Kim?
And so every year I'm like, I'm gonna learn the piano and be able to play and sing Christmas carols for my kids. We're just gonna do it. My husband and I have been together 12 years. Every year I've been saying this, and now we have kids. And so sure enough, Christmas time, I'm like, oh, next year I'm gonna learn how to play my favorite things on the computer, or on the piano. So for Christmas, my husband got me a teaching keyboard piano, beautiful, stunning, and he spent a lot of money. So now I am now I'm like, okay, I really have to figure this out. So I downloaded a computer app to teach me how to play piano. So I'm so far an hour a night from 8 to 9. I've been practicing the piano.
Good for you.
Yeah.
There's a little trick of the trade for business owners is time blocking.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody who's not a business owner doesn't understand when you say from 8 to 9. You really mean like, here's my hour from 8 to 9. I'm doing this.
The app Simplicity Piano or whatever it is, it like has an alert that's like, so I'll be sitting on the couch and I'll be like, okay, I gotta get up and go practice my piano. The kids are asleep. Anyway,
That's
Better
great.
than drums.
totally.
Oh man, that's coming with boys.
Yeah.
One of them's gonna want to play. the
One
drums.
of the 2-year-old already has a little guitar, so I'm sure it's not far away.
So, industry insights, I like to talk about sharing relevant business operations tips, marketing, project management, stuff like that. So, Kimberly, I'll start with you. Any tools or technologies that you're using to improve efficiency or the client experience, when they're in your operation, in your business?
We have a software system that's very, very specific to our industry. So it holds pretty much everything but payroll.
That's
so
fantastic.
like schedules, client information, caregiver information, certifications, training. I mean, there's obviously a lot to, the business to want to bore everybody with like massive detail, but it really holds everything that we need in order to run the business. There's a reward program for the caregivers that's integrated with it. Everything except for payroll is in that system.
That is not normal in most businesses, industry specific businesses, that you can find something like that that's all in one.
Yeah.
Usually it's, we're having to combine all these different programs and softwares to get a client to have, each of those things you just listed. So that's great that they have that in one. The more you can automate and the more you can put it in one software, the better. For sure.
Anything to make life more simple.
That's right. What about you?
I need something like that. We have, a database tool that has all of our clients and things like that. And I just try to automate everything so I don't have to think about it every single month, like our client newsletters and client gifts and things that we send out to them. Once it's set up for the year, then it just does it itself. Anything I can systematize and it just does it itself is what we try to do.
we can't do as much as we do if we don't do that, right?
Especially with 5 kids.
Caitlin, what about you?
Yeah, so I think sometimes as business owners, we try to tackle everything at once and things become very overwhelming and very complicated unnecessarily so.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best advice I can give a business owner, if you're in the first 5 years looking to scale, looking to hit that first $1 million revenue mark, it's really look at your numbers, because the first million is you're going to have to spend some money. It takes money to make money. And you really need to understand what is your revenue, what is your capacity, what is your budget for marketing, for spending money, for hiring people. And if you're using an Excel spreadsheet, you probably don't have a great grasp on what you have coming in. So really a simple tip is open up 3 accounts at your bank, have all of your revenue coming into one account, put the second account, put 30% aside for taxes. And then that third account should be for saving for bigger projects that you want to do in your business. And that's really simple. And then having an accounting software. We use Intuit. It costs $35 a month and it pairs with TurboTax, and it makes it really easy to track your cash flow numbers. So that way, after 3 months of using Intuit, you can really get a sense of where are we at, how are we doing, and all of those things integrate into that program. So if you have those 3 business accounts plus a business credit card, you link it all up and it does it for you. And I think that's the biggest foundation for any business owner getting started, because it takes the stress of the money piece out of it and it lets the software do it for you, so you can start making owner decisions.
Wow, that's fantastic advice. I love that. And then having somebody like you look at all of it.
Yeah. Typically folks come to me once they're looking to scale to 10 million. So they've hit the $1 million mark. They've done a lot of those things. And now there's like, okay, what got us here won't get us there. We're going to be writing bigger checks, bigger things. We're going to have to scale differently. What does that look like? And who do we hire? And what do we outsource? And that's typically when I come in to help rearrange their chessboard.
Yeah, that's great. So speaking of advice, Kimberly, you've been a business owner a long time. What would you think you would tell newer business owners, either entrepreneurs or they bought a business like you did, to stand out in a competitive market if they're in something that's competitive, like real estate, home care, financial?
I suppose attempting to figure out their niche, whatever their kind of unique thing is in that industry, because most of us have hundreds, if not thousands, of other people that I don't know how many realtors there are, but there's a lot. I don't know how many home care there is, but there's hundreds. And so you have to figure out ways to kind of stand out. And in my industry specifically, being contracted with the state, with Medicaid, is a really, really big deal, because there's no oversight in our industry. There's not licensed per se. So people can, if you only have a private pay side of the business, you can just sort of take and run with it. No one's actually checking that you're doing background checks, or, checking that you've done APS checks, all those kinds of things. So those would be a few things that would stand out in my specific industry.
Well, and you're so good in the community, being out in the community, you stand out over, other home care agencies that never go out and do anything. You're so involved in, your pastors and all your associations and your local, chapters, of commerce, chambers of commerce and stuff like that just sets, I think, sets you apart from other, because you're out in the public.
Sure. And you're fun to hang out with, obviously. That's the most important thing.
I personally think in life, everything, it takes a village. Like, I think it takes a village with our kids. I think it takes a village with the business. I think it takes a village with our parents, our seniors in our life. The communities are part of that village. And if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And so if there's something that I need to figure out, if I don't have a community in a village to go and ask, then who are you going to go to?
You're right. What about you, Samantha?
For real estate, I would say don't go so big, but actually go small and get into your community and just become the expert in the community that you want to serve. So get familiar with the restaurants and the schools and all the amenities in the area, and just really become like the local expert. And I'd recommend, if you're getting into any business, find a coach or someone to mentor you along the way.
100%. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was such a lifesaver for you and I in our first business. I'm like, what in the heck are we doing? to have a coach, to have somebody guide you along the way. And I don't think you ever get too big to have a coach. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you grow out of having a business consultant or a coach. Yeah. I think along the way we've always had coaches along the way, and it's critical to success, just like community is the same, right? Is getting to have somebody to ask the question.
Yeah. We call it the athlete mentality. You look at the top performing athletes in the world, they have 5 or 6 coaches. You have a nutrition coach, physical therapy coach, you have your head coach, you have your manager, which is also your finance coach, and a lot of them are in therapy, so you have a therapist coach, right? No, but truly, it's and I think of myself as like the financial coach on that side of it for sure. In terms of ways to stand out, gosh, there's so many different things now, but one thing that business owners can use now that didn't exist when I was starting my firm 10 years ago is AI. So there's a great tool called Claude, CLAUDE.ai. It's $21 a month, and you can use it to write all of your newsletters, all of your scripts. And I think with standing out, it's about being consistent. It's less about having this amazing, wonderful content that everybody needs to read, and more about just reminding people you exist and getting in their inbox and keeping your name top of mind. Especially if you're in more of a transactional business. I'm in a relationship business, so it's a little bit different. But if you're in a transaction business, you need to be finding new customers on a monthly basis. How are you doing that? And if you can have, if you can be the CEO and you can hire somebody on Upwork for $20 an hour to go into your Claude AI and write 12 newsletters and have that automated, you have now monthly newsletters for the rest of the year completely done that you're not even dealing with. You're approving them, of course, but I would say from a standing out perspective, what are some high touch but low priority, low cost things that you can implement in your business using AI that you can hire other people to do for you cheaply?
100% agree. What is one misconception about your industry that you'd like to clear up? If you could, I liked how you always talk about that everybody assumes that it's highly regulated because you're in people's homes and it's, because it should be. Yeah, but that's something that people don't know.
No, I would imagine most people have no idea that if it was just a private pay side of the business, you can make up some business cards and brochures and hire somebody.
Call it a day. Yeah,
right.
That's pretty scary.
To take care of your parents
Yeah.
and be in your home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
same with financial advisors. All you need is a Series 7. You can hang up a shingle and call yourself Joe Blow, wonderful, beautiful unicorn in charge of everything. So kind of to your point,
There's
vetting.
not oversight.
Not a ton. It's we can talk about that on a different episode of what the process is for going through the SEC. But anyway,
yeah, I think another way for agencies to stand out, well, one, to be an actual proper agency, so that like all of your employees are W-2 employees. They're not 1099s. Because if something happened to the caregiver in the home, they go after the homeowner's insurance instead of workers' comp, because workers' comp doesn't exist if they're 1099. I would make a lot more money if I had them all 1099s, but it's not the right thing to do. There's local association here in Arizona.
For people that don't know, there's a lot that goes into having a home worker and doing a 1099. You have to have the 1099 done by a certain point. I think it's like January 19th. I mean, there's a lot of records that you have to remember to do when you're hiring home employees, and most homeowners that are needing care are not in a position to do that at all.
I don't think that the clients or homeowners, however we want to refer to them, I don't think that they grasp the concept that they actually become the boss. Like they become the employer.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're supposed to have their own workers' comp insurance. They're supposed to file their own version of taxes. And there's a lot of things that, of course, most people don't want to do. Now, you can get a caregiver cheaper that way, but then you also have to take on the risk of what that could potentially look like if something, were to happen.
Wow. Yeah, there's a misconception.
And who would have any idea? I mean, I would never know.
No.
Right. Yeah.
To even ask the question, are your employees W-2 employees,
Right.
and are they covered by your workers' comp
Yeah.
instead of me having to get it? That's huge.
Yeah.
Samantha, there's a million misconceptions in real estate.
I don't know, Cal. Throw out one to make it. Jeez, are we all created equal?
Oh man,
so.
No. There's a big misconception, right?
Yeah. Actually, not every realtor is licensed under the National Association of Realtors, so we all don't have to follow all the rules and code of ethics that everybody follows. I don't know. There's so many myths about realtors and so many changes in the industry this year.
Oh yeah. But what's one that's a big one?
Well, the big one this year is around commission and how, agents get paid and representation, and you can no longer look at homes right now without a signed agreement with a buyer. So you just can't call an agent and just walk into a property anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot.
The realtor will lose their license if they just open up the front door.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
What about in your industry, Caitlin? Is it common
I
misconception?
think the used car salesman
Oh, I
comes
was
to
gonna
mind.
say, yeah.
You know, anytime we're at happy hour with like my husband and friends, and we're meeting new people, and they're like, "Okay, so what do you do?" I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, "Oh, please don't ask me for stock tips. Like, that's not what we do."
Yeah, I never thought about that for you. I get that all the time.
Oh my gosh. You know, I think I've been doing this for so long, my reputation precedes me. So people know who I am, and that my firm was designed to put people above profits. But most financial firms are asset gatherers. And so they're paid to take your money, manage it, and charge you a fee. And so there's all these other things in your world financially that matter and that are very important. But because the financial advising team those are uncompensated tasks, they don't get discussed. Estate planning, tax planning, long-term care is a great example. Power of attorneys. You have to have your power of attorney reviewed every 2 years and updated every 2 years, or institutions will call it invalid. Is a financial advisor, when was the last time your financial advisor reviewed your power of attorney?
Oh man.
Right? Probably never. And so those are just some things that I think that I'm looking to change in our industry and that's why I had to leave the big corporate firms and start my own private office, because we wanted to approach financial advising differently. So when people sit down with us, they get it. They're like, "Oh, no one's ever talked to us about this. That's new." And it's like, well, that's because they didn't get paid to. And so I think that's probably the biggest misconception is getting people to think about their financial life in terms of everything comprehensively, not just their 401ks, IRAs, and brokerage accounts.
100%. It's similar in our business that, you can be just a marketing firm, or you can be just a business consulting firm, or you can be just a project management firm. But what happens then if you're not looking at the whole thing? You're not looking at the overarching person and business and what goals and what they want to do in their life. If we're not asking those questions, if the marketing, quote unquote, marketing agency isn't asking those questions, then they're not going to get the holistic approach. So
and I'll get a business owner, a wife just hired me. Her husband died at 62, heart attack. All of their business accounts were in LLCs. Great. An LLC cannot have a beneficiary on the account. Banks will not do it. So if your LLC is not owned by your family trust, by definition, unless your wife or your husband is a part owner of that LLC, those bank accounts will end up in probate, which means all of your business operating accounts get frozen 4 months. How are you meeting payroll? How are we handling this? And so those are just such simple questions. When I sit down with a business owner, that's the first question that I ask is, hey, do you have a trust? And is the trust the owner of your LLC? Number one question. And if they say no, I'm like, I am texting 2 estate planning attorneys to you right now. Before we move forward, we need to get this done, because we don't want to put together a huge plan just for it to not work.
Yeah.
And so those are just simple things that I think everybody should know, that, hey, if you have a business, you have an LLC, you either need to meet your spouse partner in the business, or you need to trust. You need to pay $4,000 for a very good trust, and it will be a great investment for your family.
Oh my gosh, we need all these people in our life,
It's for free. That's all free advice, right?
I tell every client, you need an accountant, you need a financial advisor, and you need an attorney. Like, you need all these people for sure. Moving to a little bit different, as your entrepreneurial journey and successes and challenges. Can you tell us something, Kimberly, that your 10-year-old self would be proud of you right now?
Not losing my mind completely.
Yes.
I'm the whole, like, when somebody says how do you balance kind of thing, I always think that that's just kind of BS personally, because I don't think that's like right.
Yeah.
Like, I think setting aside the times, if somebody sees my calendar, they usually lose their mind because there's blue all over. But every exercise class, every day is blocked off on there. A hair appointment, whatever, like, you name it, whether it was personal or some version of self-care.
Does your team laugh? Because my team has access to my calendar. So my assistant will be like, have fun on your date tonight, because I literally create a date, and then I send my husband an invite to show up. I'm like, hey, I'll see you at the Suns game at 7. Bye.
You have to make an appointment to actually see and talk to.
100%. I'm not even mad about it, because if it's on the calendar, did it even happen?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's the dogs, the kids, the business, like it doesn't matter. Like it's not on there, it's not happening. So there's a lot of blue on my counter, but there's a lot of taking care of myself in the process as well, which I think that would probably be one of the things that I'd be the most proud about. Because I mean, it would be very easy to totally lose it.
Yeah.
If we didn't do all of those things to keep it together.
200 employees to worry about. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Self-care is very important.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
What about you? What would your 10-year-old self be proud of, Samantha?
I mean, I do think I live a pretty balanced life, so I'm pretty proud of that. And I think celebrating even all the small wins that you have along the way, it's really important to not get frustrated of where you always want to be, but how far you've come in places. And I make it a priority to go to 90% of my kids' events and have date nights and do self-care. So for the most part, it's pretty balanced. I'm pretty proud of that.
You are. You've always
Yeah.
been good at that. Even running a full office with all your team is pretty cool. And 5 kids.
Yeah.
I could never have, as I said, one of the reasons I got out of the business was not having that. Now, of course, now I'm, way different than I was in my 20s, but having that, discipline to shut it off, to have the separation, to have self-care time. Nope, this is me and I'm shutting it off. Doesn't matter what happens. So I've learned that at least in the last 20 years, but you've always been really good at that.
You've gotten much better.
What about you? What would your 10-year-old self be proud of?
Oh my gosh. So I grew up with just like a very chaotic household. My mom was also phenomenal and just powerhouse working, but she never was married to somebody that would support her. And so I grew up seeing that she would have been unstoppable if she had had support. And I personally think that we did a disservice to women, telling women that they can do everything. You can be anything. You don't need a man. That's not true. That's just not true. We're not designed to do that, in my opinion. And if I wanted to be the mom I wanted to be, which I did, I needed to marry a partner that would really help support me in my journey of being an owner and running a company and being a mom and being able to come home and just be with my kids, and he would hold our life together. And so I think my 10-year-old self honestly would be really proud of the marriage that we have built, and we put our marriage above everything. It's above our kids, it's above our business, and it's really a conversation of how Max and I can partner together and block and tackle. And I can't remember the last time I went to the grocery store, truly, because that's not my lane. If I go to the grocery store, it's quick. I'm in and out. I'm not looking at deals. I'm not looking at sales, right? Like, who has time for that? Well, he does. So he has no problem going to the grocery store. And so I think for me, as a business owner and as a mom and as a wife, there's no such thing as balance in my world. It just doesn't exist. There's priorities and there's harmony. And my priorities are my husband, my kids, and my business. It's not the dishes. It's not vacuuming. It's not making beds. It's not laundry. I don't need to be doing those things. I don't. My time is way more valuable with my husband, my kids, or making money for our family. And we've lined that up really clearly. So if there's things that Max doesn't want to do, we hire for it. We throw money at it, and that's okay, because I don't need to be everything to everyone. And that would be probably what my 10-year-old self would be most proud of.
I mean, I'll deny it if Jason hears this, but when people always ask, how do you do it with 5 kids? It's because I have a really good spouse.
Yeah.
He, picks up the house or cooks dinner or runs kids places. You have to have a really good partner to do it.
Yeah, and there's no scorecard. Well, I put the kids down last night, so it's your turn.
Right.
What is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is that? And I see some of my, my friends and even family members, and I am just really grateful that we were able to come together and work as a team to approach different things, because there's absolutely no way Trekwell Solutions would have grown as fast as it. I wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for my husband. Absolutely not. No chance. And I have no shame in saying that, because I know that I can't do it alone. And I don't think that as women we should have to.
No, absolutely. And then back to your village, back to it takes a village.
Sure. I mean, and not everybody has the spouse to lean on, but they have
100%.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have to have a lot of people. Like you said, whatever you can't do or want to do on your own, I always say do what you love and outsource everything else, right? Like do the things you like to do and throw money at the other stuff. It's so much better than
Like a maid.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite people in the whole world.
Seriously. Seriously.
I'll never forget the conversation. I was like, why are we cleaning before the cleaning lady gets here? Like, so she doesn't wipe around the water bottle. Just pick up the water bottle.
Yeah.
Move the things so she can
You
clean.
have to tidy the things. Universal conversation in every
It literally is. That's funny. Is there something that you learned along the way, a hard lesson that you wish you knew sooner?
Oof.
I know. It's a big one.
I'm sure there's plenty.
Right. I can think after, like after 10 years, a lot of employees. I guess I would say probably to, like, there's a fine line of everybody wants to grow and everybody wants to scale, but I think that you doing it strategically and not necessarily slowly, just intelligently, can you jump a little bit too fast, hire a bit too many people, that kind of thing. I think that would probably be like one of the biggest lessons for me over the years of having times of, trying to 10 times when we should be 4 timesing. And then, if you're 10 times and you weren't quite ready, then you gotta, take a step back. And that's, not always fun conversations to have. So grow, but grow wisely.
Yes. Yeah. And do it because you'll be longer lasting that way. I've seen so many people, so many business owners that do it too fast and then they burn out, or they lose their minds, right? Or they can't, or it fails. So it's better to grow strategically. Yeah, I agree with you. What about you? Something, a hard lesson you learned along the
How
way?
many assistants did we go through in the beginning?
Way too many.
No, I would say, like, don't skip the process. You have a process for a reason, whether it's your hiring process or interviewing with clients, or selling their home. I have a process for a reason, and not to skip over anything and really just kind of follow the steps.
So many times.
Yeah.
You just want to hurry and do it, and then it bites you in the butt.
Yeah.
I agree with you. What about you? A hard lesson?
I'm just laughing because, like, I onboarded a client out of order last month, and now we're dealing with all of these, like, questions that are just like, I'm like, why do I have 3 emails about a question that should have? I'm like, oh, that's why, because we didn't follow a process. It'll be fine, but it ends up being more work, right, on the back end. So we're all guilty of it, for sure. Great advice. Biggest mistake, I think it's part of it. I don't know that there was, one biggest mistake I made. I just think it's giving yourself a lot of grace, but also know business ownership isn't for everybody. As a business owner, you need broad shoulders. If the garbage disposal breaking is going to send you over the edge, then maybe this isn't for you. Honestly, you got to go on YouTube. You got to figure out how to take the garbage disposal apart, buy a new one, install it, and roll with it. I mean, I'm not proud that I did that like 5 years ago. I would never install a garbage disposal ever again. Thank you. But I did it, right? I figured it out. We can do hard things. But I would say we made a lot of mistakes. Business owners do. There's a lot of things where you're just like, shit. Why did I do that? Why did I spend 10 grand on something that was 0 ROI? Why did I hire that PR team that, like, I didn't vet right away? And don't be afraid to ask hard questions. Hey, if you're going to have me in your TV segment, how many viewers do you have? What's the ROI? What's the expectation? Yeah. Don't go in feeling like you need to hire everything. But yeah, I would just say, just know there's going to be bumps in the road. Mistakes are part of being a business owner. It's how quickly you recover and move through them. And the faster you move, your bank account is a reflection of how fast you move.
100%.
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
No.
Yeah, and give yourself deadlines. If you're not making a certain amount and you're not able to save and get to some of these benchmarks that you're making, then thinking about not pivoting too quickly, but there are moments where as a business owner, you really do have to have hard conversations with yourself around, is this serving me and my family, or do I need to go back to corporate America? And those are hard conversations.
Or just
start something else.
Or start a new business.
Or start a new business. But yeah, those are hard conversations we have as a financial planning firm, that we obviously want business owners to succeed. But a lot of businesses don't, and that's okay. That's part of life. So what's the next play? Next play.
And be ready and be okay for change. I mean, we have to be okay with change as business owners, or else
failure only defines you if you let it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so you failed. So what? What's next?
Yeah. What are we doing
as an athlete? I was a goalie. Okay, if I let one goal in and I let that derail me, I would have lost every single game. Kind of going back to that athlete mentality, you have to have a certain mental toughness to be a business owner, and you're going to fail. There's going to be things that don't work. How quickly do you identify it, recognize it, and pivot?
Yeah, absolutely. Another question for you, Kimberly. Looking back on your business ownership journey, has there been a most influential person or somebody who's been a big influence in your business?
There's so many people. I mean, like my parents at the very, very beginning, in the first couple of years, it was, can you pick up the kids? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because I mean, all you do is eat, sleep, the business, and you don't have time for anything else if you wanna really actually grow and scale. And you got to do what you got to do. So I mean, they were huge help. I mean, they still are, but now my kids are 13 and 18, so it's a different kind of help. I mean, obviously my husband and I have worked it together this entire time. So having somebody like you were saying to, talk to and, lean on and have the hard conversations is nice.
It's huge.
In the business, I mean, there's been multiple kind of, I don't know if I would say coaches necessarily, but people that, I'm on the board of NAWBO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, and there's a mastermind group that I have with some of them, and they have to have a minimum of $1 million in revenue each year, and that mastermind group for me personally I've gotten more out of that than I have out of any other ones that I have ever been a part of, and I've done a few.
A lot. Yeah, that's great.
They bring a different, they're in all different industries, so we don't ever have any like similarities in the sense of the industry, but we've all gone through something, and there's a personal bit to it and the business part of it, and that mastermind has been helpful professionally and personally, for that matter. That's almost kind of like therapy.
I was a part of a mastermind, and it makes a big difference to be around similar, especially when you're at a certain revenue, size, that you can be around people that have been there, done that, gone through the same thing as you, to bounce ideas off of. Community, why I call the show Collaborative Connections, because it's really important to have the collaboration. I love that. What about you? Any people that stand out as an influential person in your business journey?
Well, I have had coaches throughout my entire real estate career, different coaches along the way that have all been beneficial, or managers at work that have said hard things to me that I needed to hear. I have a mastermind on Mondays with a group of women, and I think that's been actually the most beneficial, because sometimes you need therapy as a business owner. So, real estate is a tough industry, and you have to have pretty thick skin. So having somebody to sometimes get your, you can only be sad for so long, and then you got to get your head out of it and just move on. So just having somebody to bounce ideas off of and say, yep, okay, well, now it's tomorrow. We got to start all over again. Has been helpful.
Yeah, that's really good. What about you? Is a standout influential person?
Oh gosh, probably not one specific person, but I would say find your people. When I was starting my business,
I was 30. All my friends were having babies. I felt like I was, not in the season of life I wanted to because we were not there yet, and I wanted to focus on growing the business. And it felt very lonely. I go to my friends groups, and they be talking about their bottles and their baby showers, and I would be talking about like, so I signed up for this payroll company today. And they're like, oh my God, stop. Like, it's so boring. So, there was just a shift there where I still like held on to my friends, but there was just a definitely dynamic shift that I needed I needed a business owner best friend, or I could just call people and talk about the revenue and the stratosphere that we were hitting. Because sometimes, when you walk into a room and say like, hey, we did $1 million a year last year, like that's amazing, but that's also that can also rub people the wrong way depending on what group you're in, depending on what season of life they're in. And I didn't feel safe to share authentically like how my business was doing and authentically about the challenges my business was facing, because I didn't feel like I had people in my world that understood. And it was really lonely for a number of years. And it made me sad. Like, I didn't have a best friend to call and just share the exciting things that I had going on, or the challenges or the failures. And so I wish I had tried a little bit harder to make friends. I was so focused on things. I think lost sight of that, how important it is to be a part of masterminds. I now have, 10 years later, of course, I found my people, but I think it took a little bit longer. And if I had just picked up the phone and called a few people I admired, my journey would have been a lot less lonely.
Mm-hmm. I do hear that a lot. I was fortunate to have a built-in best friend. We called each other our work wives, for our first business, and all the other businesses we owned were family businesses or business partners. So I didn't ever feel like that. But also I purposely made myself go out and do the networking and put myself in those rooms until I found, the perfect room. So that's what I am always sharing with clients now is don't be lonely. Don't feel like you're on an island. There are other people out there that can, that are in the same boat as you. And because I don't want anybody to feel like that, and so I'm constantly like, what groups do you want to be in? Come on, so I go to a million different groups so that I can tell each client, okay, don't go to that one, go to this one, because they're not all created equal. You find different masterminds or different groups where you're like, like you said, that's not the right room to share that. But another room would be like celebrating you in a second, for those accomplishments. So that's a big deal. Can you believe we are almost out of time? It goes by so fast. What advice would you give entrepreneurs looking to grow or scale? I know we've talked about this, throughout the show, but is there anything that we didn't talk about, or something you want to reiterate, advice you would give entrepreneurs looking to grow or scale their business?
Find the right people to put in the right positions, whether you're outsourcing things like a marketing team or various other kinds of teams, but it's finding the right fit at the right time. It's always key.
Yeah. That's right. Big lessons always, right? What about you, Smith?
I would say don't be afraid to fail forward. Failure is inevitable. You're going to fail, and that's okay. Just learn from it and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I love that.
There's a really good book called Rocket Fuel, and it talks about the business operating procedure, EOS, which is what Kimberly had just said is, hey, you don't want janitor complex. Just because you're the owner doesn't mean you should be cleaning the toilets. People need you to be the visionary and be the leader. So be the visionary and be the leader, and then hire other people and make sure you have the right people on the bus and in the right seats going in the right direction. And that's what Rocket Fuel does. And it's a really great book. And I 10x'd my business the minute I hired my EA to integrate all my ideas, because I'd have all these great ideas and I'd be going 100 miles an hour and I'd have all these breadcrumbs behind me not getting integrated and implemented into my business in a way that was functioning. So the minute I hired people to start integrating and just handling all of the logistics and client journey and onboarding, was the minute we were able to really hit that next level that I had been looking for. And I waited way too long to hire an executive assistant. So I would say that is a great book to check out. But there's a reason you kind of hear the same themes throughout this is, hiring, scaling is really important. And you want to make sure that you have a business operating procedure to be able to do that. And EOS is certainly what we use in our business.
yeah, the processes, like you're saying, don't skip the process.
Mhm.
And we always hired even a little bit before we actually needed it. So that, like you said, you waited too long to hire that. And
I
so-
didn't. I'm too cheap. I wish I had that mentality.
Oh.
Financial advisors are always the worst, right?
Yes.
Right? I'm like, oh gosh, I know I need to, but really,
The tiny bit, like I always knew that it's coming. You know what I mean? So, and COVID, I had hired my first team member in the beginning of COVID, and we grew by 200%. But I knew it was coming. Like for some reason, intuition, you call it whatever, or business ownership for however the heck long we've been. We how many assistants did we hire? But knowing ahead of time, like it's time, okay, or fire. It's time to hire or it's time to fire, and do it quickly because you don't want to struggle so much.
When I think giving up the control and delegating can be very, very hard for very type A OCD.
do you guys give up your
owners.
email? Have you given up your email yet?
Yes. Like I have a
Okay.
virtual assistant.
I haven't done that
that's all
yet.
the things.
But
You can
I
do
know my executive assistant is like, okay, like we're having our quarterly meeting. Like, is it time to like give me your email yet? And I'm like, wait, let's talk next quarter. I'm like, I need to. It's going to happen. I'm committing to that.
We have
It's recorded.
I know. That's why, like, if I say it out loud, it's gonna happen, right?
That's right. We have a section in our project management software that anytime I get on a call with a client, and then I put it for the next time. I'll ask them again and ask them again, and then
Sometimes we get asked the whole year.
I literally hired my assistant to basically be my boss. I'm like, you have to babysit me. This is your primary job. No.
That's right. That's important. Well, I appreciate all of your time today and wisdom and insights. Business owners cannot do it alone, and listening, I think, to this episode will really help guide them and give them a few more tips, even though, we always, like you said, fail forward and find your tribe and find your community of people and lean on people so you're not alone. We hope today's conversation has sparked ideas for how you can grow, streamline, and or scale your business. And no, you don't have to do it alone. At KLM Consulting, Marketing and Management, we specialize in helping business owners like you simplify operations, improve marketing strategies, and build strong partnerships so you can focus on what you do best. That's why our coined phrase is do what you love and outsource everything else. Until next time, happy connecting.
Turn it on. Okay.